Ryan, you had a relationship about a decade ago that really strained our relationship.
Yeah.
In a way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, we don't have to mention the person, obviously, but it was someone you were dating, and there was a certain toxicity there. Even if you take me out of the relationship.
Well, yeah.
I think it was what Jamie was talking about earlier, where it was like, I was Talib Kweli, and she was like, "How dare you go talk to?" Except you were business partners with Talib Kweli.
Well, it's interesting. Like I had been a really crappy partner up to this relationship.
Yeah.
So when I started dating this girl,
Same thing.
this woman, I was like, I'm going to give it my all.
Oh my God, this is what happened with me and the Talib Kweli. Like, this is actually what happened.
So when she exhibited toxic behavior, I didn't see it as toxic behavior. I looked at it as, oh, I'm doing something wrong.
Because you're so used to you being the problem.
Yeah, if I could just change it. So I did everything I could. By the way, when I met her, I was at the peak of my drug use. This was before the minimalist. This was like when I was at the peak of my misery, the peak of my drug use, the peak of my heading towards the peak of like my corporate job or career or whatever. So there was so much going on that when I sobered up, I was like, uh-oh. Like I didn't realize how I had to be on drugs to be with this woman. And then it took me, 3 years to realize like, oh, like it is okay to say, hey, Ryan, it's not you. It actually is this other person.
Dude,
so
that took me a long time.
Yeah,
I went through the exact same thing. That's wild.
Yeah. It's rough, man. Because you want to keep, because it's been on you. It was on me for so long.
Yeah.
That I wanted to be like, no, this is Ryan. This is the same thing that always happens in your relationships.
And even when she said the jealousy thing, I was like, I know that's going to be okay because I am not even going to look at another girl because I am fixing everything about me and I am ready to be a perfect boyfriend. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean she was ready to be a perfect girlfriend.
Yep.
Like, and then look, it's good that me and you did that, and then we got to take it on to our new relationships. But man, what a bummer when you're just like, all right, I guess this is what a healthy relationship is, as like this other person is suddenly being crazy and you're trying to like be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, it was I'll tell you the one thing I got out of that relationship though is I realized what I needed out of a partner. Yeah. And so when I found that in a partner, it was great. I knew exactly. I was like, "Oh yeah, like I'm willing to give this a shot."
Yep.
Instead of being like, I'm going to find the person who's going to show me the most attention and then I'm going to give that a shot. It was like I got a lot more choosy, I guess, with the people I had.
And she has to pass the M-word test.
I mean, the apex, I mean, just so people know how it strained Josh and I's relationship, the apex was when we were in Salt Lake City. And you were dating a girl at the time.
Yeah, Colleen.
Yeah, the girl that's in Everything That Remains.
Yeah, and Everything That Remains.
And Colleen had some stuff about like, hey, look, she had issues with like, she had dated a married guy or something. I don't know what it was. Mm-hmm. So Josh was still technically married, okay?
By the way, I hadn't been with my wife for several years.
Yeah. They were just like on paper technically married.
Yeah, we hadn't gone through the court date yet.
So
had all the paperwork and everything
trying
else.
trying to put it on myself and to repair this relationship because she was very jealous over Colleen for some reason because Colleen and I would joke on Twitter.
Ryan and Colleen were friends.
Right.
And the other person, Ryan's girlfriend, just couldn't understand that Ryan could also be friends with the person I was dating.
Which just tells me that she couldn't just be friends with guys, which is a whole other thing.
Fascinating.
So I said, hey, why don't you we're in Salt Lake City. We're in Salt Lake. I'm like, why don't you go and have some lunch with Colleen and just try and like really see her for who she is. She's a great person. And she was like, yeah, I'll give that a shot.
Great.
So she went on this lunch and basically was like, just attacked Colleen. Josh is still married technically. You know that you should probably lose a few pounds. But I was in such a state that like I thought there's no way she could do no way she actually behaved like this.
You're like, I just killed this. What a great idea.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was like, that was the apex where, and that was real. It was really like, that was in like December, I think.
It was December 20.
Yeah, it was right before Christmas.
11. And then this was our very first tour. We had 2 people at our Salt Lake City tour stop.
Yep. And then we broke up in March. Like it was 3 months later where I was just like, but that was the beginning of me like, oh, wait a minute. This isn't this isn't a Ryan problem.
Right.
The only Ryan problem is that I'm trying to hang on to something toxic.
Isn't that a wild first realization where you're just like, oh, I'm not the one that screwed this up.
Yeah.
You're like,
she specifically tried to break up Colleen and Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the friendship, and like because that would probably break you guys up.
Oh, she was jealous.
Have you?
Well, it got to a point where I was like, again, like still trying to hold on. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this couples counseling, and we went and like she picked out the therapist, which I'm like, okay, great. But then when I went, it's like her and the therapist were going after me and Josh.
Right.
And I was like, the third season of Ozark. Do you remember? Did you see the third season of Ozark?
Oh yeah, it's so good.
Spoiler alert: he bribes the psychiatrist.
I totally thought about this.
Yes.
When I saw the third season, I'm like, oh, this is what my ex did to me.
Uh-huh.
She found a psychiatrist or a couples counselor to basically be on her side.
Perfect. Great.
And it was like, oh, Josh is in your life, but he needs to be out of your life.
Whoa, no therapist.
Yeah,
and
I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, this is the worst advice I've ever heard in my life. Like, there should be some kind of coexisting.
Whoa.
Like, yeah, and I mean, but that was again that happened in March, and then I think she gave me an ultimatum. I didn't even break up with her. She was like, you need to stop talking to Colleen or we're through. And I'm like, I guess we're through then.
Oh, isn't that
and that was it.
Isn't that the best when you don't want to get out of a relationship because
and they get out of it for you?
And they give you the ultimatum and you're like, well, if that's what you want. And they're like, what? And you're just like, no, it's too late. You said it already.
Dude, I have so much guilt and
you can't take it back.
You can't take it back. No take backs. No take backs. I remember with the saddest thing that happened with Emma is I think one of the reasons, I talk about like I finally had the guts to get out of a relationship before it got toxic. I was so devastated about the cat that nothing could upset me. Like there were literally times where I'd be crying and I think she thought it was about like me and her because we were talking about breaking up and she's like, hey, it's okay, we'll still be friends. And I'm like, what, you're still here? You know what I mean? Like I was just like so obsessed about the cat that I was just like, whatever, like everything else was like easy. But anyway, glad you're out of that relationship.
Yeah, me too. I have so much like guilt and anxiety talking about this. It's crazy because it's like resurfacing all of my bad mistakes. But hey, that's what we do.